Welcome back to Emotional Mojo. Now, this is something I think a lot of people can relate to, okay? If you're tired and wired, maybe suffering physical exhaustion, unable to get adequate rest. You could be a stressaholic. I'm just gonna go ahead and admit it. My name's Michelle, I'm a stressaholic. So our guest host all day today is gonna show us now how to transform our relationship with stress. So welcome, Dr. Heidi Hanna.
Thank
now,
you.
You say our relationship with stress. Yes. What does that mean?
So it's really important to say this is a relationship with stress because stress is not going anywhere. And I think a lot of the reason that people have a hard time managing stress is because they want to eliminate the stress that's out here.
Yeah, you think you gotta cut it out of your life.
And that's not going anywhere.
And that's not practical.
No, so it's really about how we respond to stress, our relationship, you know, how we think about it, how we take care of ourselves and our personal resilience that makes the difference.
And you've coached thousands of people on health and wellness solutions. And what have you seen as the impact of chronic stress on our bodies?
Well, chronic stress, unfortunately, wears down our energy. It also causes a great deal of inflammation. 75 to 90% of medical visits are stress-related, so we're seeing a lot in the research.
75 to 90%?
Absolutely.
Oh
because stress speeds up the development of what's wrong. So it doesn't cause any sort of disease or injury, but if something is wrong, it stimulates that. It causes more inflammation.
Well, when you say it causes inflammation, we know that most diseases are inflammation-based.
Absolutely, but it's the hardest thing for people to actually stop doing. So when I work with executives or athletes, they want to know, how do I eat? How do I exercise?
Sure.
And I'll say, you know, the best thing you could do is actually take a break.
Right.
And they start to freak out. They start twitching just thinking about it. You know?
That's how I get.
So you got your book, we have it here, Stressaholic. Tell us a little bit about it, because it's a guidebook. So you take this journey from exhaustion to enlightenment. I want to be enlightened. How do I become enlightened? Please do tell.
Let me say, first of all, this is a very personal story, and it's a personal journey. I grew up having panic attacks as a child, so I'm a worrier. And in a lot of ways, it helps us get ahead. We're always thinking, you know, how do I be 10 steps ahead of everybody else to be successful?
Yeah.
The problem is when we get stuck in that overdrive all the time, it starts to wear us down. So I just got to the point where enough was enough. I knew I had to do something different. And of course, what do? I write a book about it, because that's not stressful at all. But what I recognized was there's really these steps that we need to take care of ourselves so that we can be there for the people that we care about. So taking care of yourself is not selfish. It's actually the best gift we have to give to the people that we care about.
I think a lot of moms need to hear that and understand that. So you say there are steps, and the first one you say is to rest.
Yeah, so really getting adequate rest. Everything about the human system is designed to oscillate, from heartbeats to brain waves to blood sugar. We're supposed to go like this throughout the day.
But what do you mean by rest? Like
So,
sleep?
and that's what I was going to say. So there's a lot of pieces. We're supposed to have periods of stress, but we're supposed to have periods of recovery. So yes, sleep is a big part of it, 7 to 8 hours, a minimum of sleep per night. But most people wait until that point to get rest, and they can't figure out why they're tired and wired at the end of the night. They're exhausting their energy throughout the day. So what I mean by rest is periodic rest, you know, working for 50 minutes and then taking 10 minutes off, which I know freaks people out, but the idea is you get more done with less time because you have better energy. Also, and I know, Tara, you'll like this one, systemic rest. So thinking about the foods that you eat and the internal stress that we're going through because we're eating processed foods or we're eating the wrong types of
You're working your body so hard.
Exactly. So rest is really holistic. It's mind and body at the same time.
Okay, so the next one is repair. What does that mean?
Repair. So we've been going through stress for a long period of time. How do we repair our mind and our body as well? So from a nutrition perspective, how do we get the foods that we know are going to nourish us, like the healthy dietary fats, for example, fruits and vegetables. Also, positive thinking. So it's what this show is all about, right? We nourish the brain with positive endorphins that we get from doing nice things for other people or writing down things we're grateful for. So it's really, again, nourishing ourselves. We're going to get adequate rest, and then we're going to start to add nourishing nutrients from a physical and emotional standpoint.
So that helps repair, which then leads you to the next step of rebuilding.
Rebuild. This is, everyone wants to jump to rebuild. So I've got to tell you, you got to rest and repair first. Rebuild is the idea then to push out of your comfort zone a little bit at a time. So interval training. I know you guys had Chris Jordan on recently and did this amazing workout. You know, ways that you push out of the comfort zone a little bit, but then because you're getting the rest and repair, you can grow from that. The challenge is stressaholics tend to overtrain. They exercise too much, believe it or not, because that's the only way they can get their cortisol going and get that high because they've actually started to run out of the stress hormones, which is kind of crazy. So being able to rebuild through strategically training your body and strategically training your mind through focusing exercises that are going to help you to be more present and fully engaged in the moment.
You say focus, that means rethink as well? Is that the next step?
Yes, so we're moving into rethink, looking at how we perceive stress. So it's amazing to me to find out that actually if you perceive stress as a threat, it produces a very different chemical cascade than if you perceive it as a challenge.
Ooh.
So here I am, you know, public speaking and flying are my two biggest fears, and I do it for a living.
Yeah,
so, you know, I've had to work
grow.
through this. It does help you grow as long as you're getting the rest and the repair that you need, and that's really the most important thing. So it's how you think about it. If you get up to give a talk, or if you're going into something stressful and you believe you have the resources you need to handle the situation, you're gonna thrive on adrenaline. You get that energy rush, but you use it, and then you burn it up and it's out of your system. If you think it's a threat, if you really worry about your career or your safety, then you're producing primarily cortisol. And we've all heard of cortisol.
Right.
It's very toxic to the body and the brain. And that's where the long-term kind of breakdown starts to happen.
And what's the final step?
And the final thing is to redesign. So you've got to redesign your rituals and come up with some new habits. Now, a lot of people will say you should have done that first because you have to restructure your life. But my philosophy is you've got to get yourself thinking right and feeling right before you're going to be able to take the step to make the change.
Because that happens all the time. You're like, I'm going to get more sleep. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And unless you've gone through these steps, it's not going to stick.
And when I even designed in the book, I have a pyramid, which I'm kind of over pyramids, but I had to do it because they are building on top of each other. But it looks like, you know, those little cups we used to open up for the water, the plastic cups. I feel so old when I say that, but it was exciting at the time because they collapse. If you're trying to rethink and you're trying to think positive, but you can't do it, check your rest. Because if you're fundamentally in survival mode, your brain is not going to say everything's fine. You're going to be thinking about the dangers in the world and the stress and the negative news that we're surrounded by. So you've got to take care of yourself first. Then you can start to see more clearly and have a more optimistic mindset.
Thank you so much. The book is Stressaholic. It's Dr. Heidi Hanna. You guys have got to check that out. You can really start making some changes in your life.